We'll just find a nice comfy seat. And let our spine get nice and tall. Take some nice fluid, full, nourishing breaths. Maybe you let the eyes close here. There's this king whose kingdom has just finished a prolonged and exhaustive battle. And the kingdom has emerged victorious. And the king is asking for societal change. Let's give ourselves just about 20 more seconds here, just feeling our respiration. Feeling our ease. Eventually, when it feels appropriate for you, with the eyes open if they're closed, and let's inhale and just sweep the arms up and overhead. On the exhale, and let the hands return to your sides. And let's transition here to a seat or to an extended leg seat. And just for a moment, feel the body in this ask. This is a relatively large ask. We put some length requirement on the posterior chain, and then we try to get the spine vertical. And both of those things can be pretty challenging for the body. So we're just going to pause here for a moment. And then inhale and sweep the arms up and overhead. We take a little bit more ask as we extend the arms. We pull a little bit more tautness into that posterior chain. And then we'll relax. Let's take both of our blankets and just fold them from shelf fold to hot dog fold. And just stack those next to us for the moment. Not exactly sure how we're going to get those where we need to get them, but we're going to figure that out. And then we're going to head on to our backs. And as you settle onto your spine, feel that. Feel the variance in the posterior chain of the torso as we just kind of compare and contrast what it was like when we were seated in staff to how that musculature has changed in its response as we adjust to being in a supported and more easeful position. And then just to feel, and we're not going to be here long, so don't worry. We're going to extend the legs straight up so that we recreate staff. And just feel now where the sense or burden of responsibility of the shape is. Oftentimes, the burden shifts more to to the more active positions. A lot of us are going to feel this more in the legs. And when we were inverted, or when we had the torso vertical, we felt this more in the spinal structure. Just feel that for a moment, and then let's bring the knees back down, or feet back down, knees back into a bent position, and pull both thighs in towards the torso for a little compression and squeeze here. Just feeling the potential receptiveness of your body here, maybe the potential resistance of your body here. And then let's release our feet back down to the mat and take our left ankle across our right thigh. So we've done figure 4 a couple times in the last couple weeks. We have not been remarkably active in the encouragement of external rotation. We've been relatively passive in the experience of the external rotation. Today, I'm going to offer the opportunity to be a little bit more active in that external rotation. So left hand to the medial edge of the left thigh, and maybe looking to elongate or straighten the left arm. That said, there's the potential here to compromise the left ankle across the thigh and to have a collapsing of the ankle structure. We don't want to encourage that. So if you draw awareness anywhere, I think draw your awareness to the integration of the left ankle, and make sure that the tibia and fibia run neutrally into that calcaneus kind of pestle, so that we have a really nice integrated ankle as you externally rotate the hip. Maybe another piece of awareness to just keep in mind is we're not looking to compromise the shoulder integrity of the left arm either, right? So if you're here and you feel like, oh, I need to really contort this left arm to get it into a place where I can externally rotate the hip, remember that compromising the left shoulder has a categorical impact on the right hip. And so if we're just going to create this kind of bilateral trade of dysfunction, it's not worth to do the external rotation. So make sure that your left shoulder stays happy, integrated in any activity you offer it. And let's give ourselves about roughly 30 seconds here, just a little bit more. And so this king has led this long, prolonged war. And he's asking now that the kingdom is beyond this wartime, that the people change the cultural fabric so that it's softer, so that it's more comfortable. When it feels appropriate for you, as it feels appropriate for you, let's release our left hand and then drop our left foot. And feel that bilateral variance, potential symmetry, and make sure that the sacral bowl comes back to neutral before we think about the second side. And then when you are ready, when you do feel like you're landed, when the pelvic bowl is equally cradled to the left and right side. We can take that right ankle across our left thigh. And once again, you can work to encourage additional external rotation with the right hand or right arm, but we do have our focus and awareness on the right ankle. The external rotation the external rotation happens, right? As soon as we take the ankle across the thigh, the right hip falls into an external rotation. So we know that's going to happen. We're maybe encouraging it with the arm, but we're making sure that we're not compromising the ankle, and then we're making sure that we're not compromising the right shoulder either. And so this king is, he's saying, hey, I've been uncomfortable, I've been under stress, I've been under tension for nearly a decade. And now that that time is behind us, I want the kingdom to be a place of comfort, of ease, of softness. And so he makes a kingdom-wide decree that they're going to round every corner of every building. The nice thing is that in this kingdom, the buildings are built of stone. And so rounding the corner is not like structurally changing anything, right? It's just softening the edges. But it's also a massive amount of labor. And so nearly every member of the kingdom is given kind of a stone file. And in their free time, they're asked to go out and kind of sand down or file down the corners of their buildings and the buildings in their neighborhood. And the kingdom grants this request, receives this request with a lot of pride. The people of this kingdom are also ready for softness. We'll give ourselves about 30 more seconds here on the second side. And then when it feels appropriate for you, we can release that right hand if you're using it, and then release the right foot. And let your body feel that renewed or new energy around the hip girdle, around the sacral bowl. And then let's make sure that we have our knees bent. So if your knees aren't bent, let's bend them. Let the feet come flat and contact with the mat or ground. And then press your hips up into a little bridge. Now, this can be a neutral bridge, but don't go beyond neutral. This doesn't have to get to neutral. So we're just lifting the hips off the ground in a way that feels comfortable for you. So whatever level of comfort in that lift that you can create that. And then let's take our arms down by our side, palms up, and then just sway your hips so that as you sway to the left, the lateral edge of that hip flexor comes to in line with the medial edge of your left hand. So right to the pinky edge. And then sway over to the right so that that lateral edge of the right side of your hips comes to the medial edge, pinky edge of your right hand. And just sway back and forth between the arms here. And as you're moving, think about the musculature at the thoracic joint. So kind of mid-back musculature, musculature attachments, and maybe even think about that union between the thoracic and the lumbar spine. But we're really trying to speak to the soft tissue as we move here. I ideally is probably the wrong word, but most likely we have kind of a variance between the upper and lower half of this tissue. So you have the quadratus lumborum right at that thoracic joint is kind of likely where our spine has peeled off of the mat or floor. And so the upper half of this musculature is tacked down with the weight of our body and the pressure of our lift. And then the lower half is relieved of that burden. And so just feel how the lower half of the QL musculature is able to sway and how the upper half of that QL musculature is static and held in place. And maybe one more time to each side. And we'll eventually come back to neutral and release our tailbone down to the mat. And then when it feels appropriate for you, and you feel like that thoracic joint musculature has tamped down, has relaxed, we're going to send both arms straight up towards the ceiling or sky. Fingers splayed wide. Can't see my fingers because of the lighting, but splayed wide. And then just slowly, gently, delicately releasing with an exhale those arms overhead so that the thumbs come down towards the space behind us. Fingers stay splayed wide, so your middle finger is likely pointed directly towards the space behind you. And then inhale the arms back up towards the ceiling or sky. Exhale back to that place behind you. And inhale back up to the ceiling or sky. And let's do this 2 more times. Just with your own respiratory pace. No rush to complete this. Just really thinking about how the upper thoracic musculature is responding to the movement as we're still tacked down. And then let's release our arms to our sides. And we're going to commit a cardinal sin here, roll to one side or the other, and press ourselves up into seat. The goal here is going to be for a large amount of thoracic joint mobility. That being said, I am always hyper cautious about mobilizing the thoracic joint and the musculature supporting the thoracic joint because it is one of the spots on most of our bodies that is the most dysfunctional and can create the most lasting tension. So I am going to offer the opportunity to start with 2 blankets as this adjustment, stacked hot dog style. However, if at any point it feels like it's too much, and it is pretty likely that it's going to feel like too much, you can pull one or both of the blankets out from underneath you here. So we are headed back onto our spine across this blanket prop with the middle of the thoracic joint. So right where your lumbar and thoracic spine meet, kind of middle of the spine at the apex of this prop shape. So lowering down here so that we have a mid-back arch. Knees can be bent, legs can also be extended, but keep in mind that that puts the body under more tension in this extension shape. I'm gonna reiterate this because, again, fighting against this much back tension can linger for days or weeks or months, and that is the antithesis of what we're trying to do here. So if you're feeling like the musculature is cramping, if you're feeling like anything is gripping, if you're feeling like anything is getting tighter, remove props until that sensation is alleviated. And then we're going to go to arms at cactus, T, or by your side with a little bit of extra awareness on the lateral edge, the thumb edge of your hands, so that we have just a little bit more external rotation of the shoulders. That helps to open up and accentuate the apex of our shape here, even if you're not using a prop underneath the sternum. If your body has told you that's not the right choice, having the thumb energy, that little bit of extra external rotation of the shoulder structure, just helps put some awareness at the center of the sternum. And that will help alleviate that corresponding posterior chain space that we're working on. And then we're finding our way back into an easy, fluid respiration, a respiration that allows us to relax. Another key indicator, if you get here and the body is fighting to relax into your respiratory cycles, the propping is too high, and we should remove that. So eventually, and it takes a couple of years, but eventually the entirety of this kingdom has its building corners rounded. And the king is pleased to see this, but he still doesn't feel like the kingdom is soft enough. And so he makes another decree. Every doorway is going to be transformed from a rectangular shape to an arch, so that there are no harsh lines, there are no harsh angles in any doorway. And this is a much bigger structural project than rounding the corners. This is going to require stonework of every building. This is going to require a recreation of every door, of every piece of hardware. And so once again, the kingdom is tasked with this chore of softening. In a similar way, you are tasked with this chore of softening, right? Think about this thoracic joint release, this thoracic spine ease. Big full pulls on your inhale breath. And deep releasing. Empties on the exhale side. Think about the way that each cycle of respiration is interplaying, interacting, and impacting the physical shape that you're in. and maybe ask yourself how you can accentuate that impact through each path of your respiration. How each inhale can be impactful, how each exhale can be impactful. We're going to give ourselves roughly 90 more seconds here. Seconds to really feel into your cycles of breath. Last 10 seconds. And when it feels appropriate for you, we'll lift our belt line once again and slide that prop out from underneath you. Release your spine back to a neutral connection with the mat if it hasn't already been neutral. And then push down in the toe mounds. And as you're energizing the toe mounds, think about pushing the crown of the head towards the space behind you. See if you can get that elongation of the spine energy that we worked on, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And then we just relax. We're going to take a moment just to feel our body in this space. And then we are going to take one of our blankets and go to shelf fold and then just a half roll. That will come underneath our neck. So you have a cervical spine articulation. And then we'll take our second blanket from shelf fold, go to towel length, and from towel length, create a little roll. And that's going to lay over our ankles and tuck underneath so that we can let the bottoms of the feet come together. And the knees fall out wide in a supported supine butterfly. So you should have a nice extension articulation of the cervical spine. You should have a relatively neutral thoracic and lumbar spine. And you should have a nice supported external hip rotation. Arms can be cactus by your side or at T, whatever feels most appropriate for your shoulders. Our area of emphasis and focus is actually going to be the cervical spine. So think about think about your head getting heavy. It's a great 80s movie, probably, maybe 90s wrestling movie called Vision Quest. If you know that movie, there's a moment at our way in, kind of the supporting character tells the lead to think light before he weighs in. We're gonna do the opposite. We're gonna think heavy so that the weight of our head becomes as impactful as possible in the shape. Think about your head being heavy so that the back of the head grounds. You can think about the shoulders being heavy as well. Anchored back of the head, anchored shoulders, articulated extension energy of the cervical spine. And then feel the weight of your breath. The ergonomics of our cervical spine are really set to have a passive but gentle extension. And yet, for the most part, most of us spend most of our time in a neutral to flexion space of our spine. And so as you get into this extension, the way that our body is really designed to sit, there can be additional weight to the way the breath travels in our throat because it feels so unnatural. It feels so uncomfortable. It feels we're not accustomed to breathing through an extension. So feel the weight of that. And then see if you can soften those big levitator muscles on the lateral edges of the cervical spine. And that continuation of structural quadratus laborum, the supporting musculature on each side of the cervical spine. So you can relax that so that the weight of the breath softens. And then let's settle into that softness. And so, as this kingdom builds more and more softness in the geometry of the buildings, as doorways are converted from rectangles to archways, it is undeniable that the visual experience of this kingdom becomes softer and softer. And yet, roughly 5 years later, after every doorway in the kingdom has been rebuilt into an archway, king kind of steps his way into one of the bigger cities of the kingdom, and it still feels uncomfortable to him. And so he orders all of the public spaces to be softened with plants, with flowers, with mosses, with rock gardens, of smooth, round stones. And again, he tasks the kingdom with making these changes, taking these public squares and softening them through nature. And so the people of this kingdom once again go back to work. They've rounded the corners of the buildings. They've removed their doorways and turned them into arches. And now they're redoing their public spaces. Remember, we're feeling the weight of the back of our head. We're feeling the weight of our shoulders as the physical anchor of the shape. And then we're experiencing the softening of the weight of our breath as the release. So that each cycle of respiration becomes more and more easeful. Even as the depth, the physical depth of the shape continues to expand. Give ourselves about 90 more seconds here. It feels appropriate for you. We're going to pull that prop out from underneath the neck. You can set that to the side. Maybe allow a little lateral movement, the head and neck here. And then we'll bring the knees back up to neutral, and we can pull that blanket off of our ankles and set that to the side as well. Feel into the neutrality. You can feel the weight of your respiration in your throat once again, and just note how that has been impacted. And then let's start some dynamic movement sway of the knees. Just feeling the body as you rotate. Feeling the integration of the lumbar and the sacrum, the hips. Dynamic sway. Eventually, we're going to let the knees settle to the left. And as you do that, make a determination whether kind of a passive settling is appropriate, or whether you might want to stack the hips, or maybe you want to keep that left hip anchored, but encourage the right hip to over rotate into some hyper rotation. You can use that left hand to help anchor that right thigh into the rotation. Looking here for the appropriate mobilization of this lumbar rotation through torsion. Just think about what the appropriate amount of activity is for you. Not going to be a super duper long hold. About 90 more seconds on this first side. And so the communities of this kingdom go into this huge public space beautification project. And kind of every square inch of public space that can be softened through or beautified through nature is. And again, this is a project that takes years, but it is a project that the people of the kingdom are behind. Everyone works together. Everyone accepts the decree of the king. And when it's done, the kingdom has been made beautiful. And the king goes out and kind of surveys the work done. And the buildings have round corners and the doorways are arches, and every space that is public is immaculately planted. And yet he still feels this tension, this unease, this discomfort. And so he makes another decree. A decree that public communication in general, will be made more polite when it feels appropriate for you, as it feels appropriate for you. Let's bring our knees back to neutral. Allow for a rebalancing or resettling. And then eventually, when it's appropriate for you, let's let our knees fall over to the second side. And we'll once again determine the appropriate amount of rotation. This can be more or less neutral rotation, right? Neutral rotation may not be the appropriate phrasing, but how you naturally land natural rotation is a beautiful way to describe that. Maybe you do pull the bottom hip, the right hip underneath you, and stack the hips. Or maybe you accentuate the capacity of the left hip extending that knee beyond a natural rotation. And then we can use that right hand to help anchor the thigh into the rotation. The important thing is not where or how you land. It is that you land in a way that feels impactful and beneficial for you. And so this king makes this decree that all communication will be softened and made more polite. You can think of kind of Central American communication, but even beyond that, where the politeness of the way that the people speak is the primary emphasis in communication. And again, this is a project that takes time. It's not like everybody can just shift the way they communicate, the way they speak instantaneously. And so this maybe is the longest of the processes, but eventually, over the course of time, the way in which people communicate in this kingdom shifts and changes. It becomes more soft, more sweet, more polite. Ourselves about 60 more seconds on the second side. And when it feels appropriate for you, we can unwind this twist. Let your spine come back to neutral. Feel that reintegration of spinal column alignment. Ask yourself if there are any last movements, any last tweaks, any last adjustments that your body could benefit from prior to Shavasana. And if there are, let's offer those to ourselves now. And if you're ready for some stillness, then let's find our way into a shape where we can appreciate Shavasana. Just be at ease here. So finally, when this language shift happens, the king calls a kingdom-wide gathering. And he's going to make this first public declaration since the end of the war so many decades ago. Just about all of the kingdom centralizes and gathers to hear this announcement. There's a lot of rumors about what it might or might not be. And the crowd is more or less abuzz as he's set to take the stage. Just finding your full, complete, total release here. And so as the king takes the stage in front of his whole kingdom, the crowd is kind of a buzz. This kingdom has created so much change over the last few decades. From this war-torn place to this beautiful, soft, loving kingdom. And so when the king takes the stage, everyone's aghast when he starts the speech by saying, "You failed me." He starts talking about how uncomfortable he is, about how stressed he is. And he's going on and on and on. And finally, this old tailor gets up from the front row and he slowly makes his way onto stage. And the king just kind of stops and watches this old man come up. He picks up his cane and he raps the king right in the chest, right in the middle of this suit of armor he's wearing. And then he wraps his cane on the buckle holding the suit of armor on. The king reaches over and he pulls that buckle and his whole body releases. We'll start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes. To our wrists and our ankles, to our elbows, knees, shoulders, hips, neck, head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the entirety of our body will move, and we'll utilize that movement to transition our way into a seat. In the seated space, spine gets tall, breaths fluid, eyes closed. And just feel the way your body sits at ease here. And when it feels appropriate, we'll inhale our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself that no matter how much the world cooperates or doesn't cooperate with you on making life easy, on making life soft, on making life comfortable, the burden of being comfortable within your own body, mind, experience is yours and yours alone. To unbuckle and see how that impacts you. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Sunday, guys. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much for taking care of yourself. I will be back tomorrow night if you want to move. If I see you then, have a beautiful rest of your day. If I see you next week, have a beautiful week. Mwah.